All right, I think we're live. Hello, and welcome to our cyber briefing series, How to Hackproof Your Business, 15 Ways to Protect Your Business from a Cyber Attack. My name is Melanie Padron, your go-to cybersecurity girl. I'm also the Director of Business Development at IT Architects. We are a veteran-owned and operator, MSP, a managed services provider, with a security-first mindset. So what that means is that we focus heavily on proactive cybersecurity to help businesses minimize and avoid damage from cyber attacks. And y'all, today is a special day. I am joined by a special guest expert today, Keith Bell, president of MTS IT Solutions. He's also an MSP located in York, Pennsylvania. And Keith and I are colleagues and we're peers. We're part of this elite global group of cybersecurity experts. And so he and I meet every week with our group. We brainstorm, we share ideas, we stay on top of what's happening in the industry. And Keith, just welcome and thank you so much for joining me today. Would you just like to tell us a little bit about yourself and MTS IT Solutions?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you, Melanie, and IT Architects for having me as a guest today. As Melanie had said, my name is Keith Bell, and I'm the founder and president of MTS IT Solutions. And I've been working in IT since about 1999. It's kind of really dating myself there, isn't it?
You're a good company. I am too.
Yeah, I just had my 48th birthday last week, so getting up there. So yeah, I had started my career back in the corporate world, and I did that for about 10 years. It was really a great experience for me, honestly. The company I work for, they invested a lot in me and all their employees, honestly. They sent me out for multiple trainings to obtain like industry certifications, like from Microsoft and Cisco and some stuff like that. So I was very grateful to be for the opportunity to be a part of such a large organization that really invested and cared about their employees. So as I said, did that for about 10 years. Fast forward to about 2008. I decided it was time for me to go out on my own and provide IT services for small and medium businesses. Then I believe it was around the 2018, 2019 timeframe that we realized things were really changing online, and we needed to shift our focus to cybersecurity to help our clients better protect their businesses.
Yeah.
And then it kind of rolls us up to here we are today. You know, we're cybersecurity first mindset MSP, doing everything we can do to protect our clients, just like IT Architects.
Yep, security first mindset. I love that. Yep. So we have been going through this series just on how to hack-proof your business. And we've been talking about 15 different ways. Let me just put up our little graphic here. Here we go. So here we go. We've been talking about these 15 ways that businesses can protect themselves, and they're actionable steps that businesses can take to help avoid cyber attacks. And so this week, we're talking about something that I had to do a little research on. It's called Web Gateway Security, or Secure Web Gateways. And honestly, just why it's so important for a business to monitor and control the traffic between their internal users and the internet. So Keith, I don't think you know this about me, but before we get too serious, I always like to bring a little bit of humor to these like techie, serious subjects. And so our audience knows that could mean only one thing. It's time for my cyber joke of the week. All right, Keith, this is your first time. So these are my corny cyber jokes, kind of like a bad dad joke or whatever. Are you ready?
Lay it on me.
Okay. Why did the hacker refuse to play hide and seek with the web gateway security?
That's a good one. I don't know, Mel. Why?
Because it always knew where to find the hidden threats.
Oh, of course.
All right. Enough shenanigans. Let's dive in. Okay, so though I am in cybersecurity now, I'm still a non-technical person. I handle sales and marketing and business development, whereas you've been on the technical side of things. You're the technical expert. So as I was researching our subject this week, kind of in my mind, I was imagining a secure web gateway is just kind of like this protective gate, right, for a business's internet use. And it makes sure that when employees go online that they're safe from threats, and also that they're accessing only appropriate content. So Keith, talk to us about web gateway security. Like, what is it exactly, and why is it important to a business's like overall cybersecurity strategy?
Well, and really, it's a key part of keeping the company safe online. It serves as a barrier between the company's network and the internet, and overall, it greatly reduces the risks of cyber attacks and improves overall security.
Okay, got it. That makes sense to me. Um, so let's talk about some key benefits. Like, why does a business owner need to, what do they need to understand about web access security?
So we'll keep this at a very high level, so I don't bore you with too much technical geek talk. It's basically protection from online threats, and we all know there's a ton of online threats these days, right? I mean, it's stopping harmful things like viruses, malware, ransomware from entering your network when employees are browsing the internet. Employees can just sometimes, if you don't have a proper secured environment, your employees can just browse and click on whatever they want. So having a system like this in place is going to help them from clicking on the dangerous links and accidentally downloading harmful files, which can contain this ransomware and malware and stuff of that nature. You can set up rules within a system like this to decide which websites are safe, which ones are off limits. So let's say you wanted to block your users from going on to Facebook or Twitter during the day because it's not work related, right? So we can block that sort of stuff, and especially we can block sites that are known to be malicious and dangerous. There's lots of sites out there that are flagged and blacklisted, and we can upload that sort of stuff into the system and say, hey, you just have no access to get there, period. Another way it really helps out is by securing data. It can prevent accidental leaks of data coming out of your network by controlling what employees can upload and share online.
Yeah.
Another area would be for compliance. A lot of industries are now being regulated by certain levels of compliance that they have to meet from a cybersecurity standpoint. Yep. So this can help your business meet legal and industry requirements by controlling and monitoring web use, and it ensures that your business follows all the rules about data protection and internet use mandated by these particular compliance rules of your specific industry. So you can set rules, you can monitor the activity, you can get alerted about potential issues to stop breaches before they even happen. Something like this could be managed in-house by someone if you have the technical skills, or you can hire a professional service to handle it for you, which is honestly the better option.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic. So to your point about people and protecting people and not knowing where people are going, we know people are the number one risk to a business, right? I believe the statistic is somewhere upwards of 95% of attacks are all attributed to human error, human mistake. And we say it all the time, but people are the ultimate wild card because you can't control what they do. You can't control what they click on. You can't control when they have a bad day or they accidentally send credentials somewhere. And, so like as you're talking, I can understand why having web access security measures in place, rules in place, would be so important and greatly reducing risk. That does make sense to me. And, I'm sure there are many solid products on the market. You also mentioned it could be managed in-house if a company has a technical team or the skills required. But honestly, it might be a better use of time and resources to partner with an expert like an MSP, which is what we do, right?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, some business owners with technical skills, might be able to set up a basic web gateway security solution on their own. Mm-hmm. However, you'll really benefit by partnering with a cybersecurity focused MSP. They're going to ensure that it's set up correctly to start with. They're going to ensure that it's properly enforced and properly monitored. At the end of the day, I really do recommend partnering with an MSP that specializes in cybersecurity. But both IT Architects and MTS IT Solutions, we can both help you choose the right solution and set it up correctly for your specific needs for your business.
Yeah, I agree. We have teams of cybersecurity experts with that specialized knowledge and experience in protecting against these types of threats. And, we live and breathe cybersecurity. It's what we geek out on. It's why we get out of bed in the morning. And, when a business chooses to partner with an MSP, it frees up them to focus on their core business activities, which is what they're experts in. And I think when everybody's operating within their strength, like that's when the best security happens. And that's just when the magic happens.
Absolutely. 100% agree.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that was a good chat. Thanks for helping everybody understand what web gateway security is and why it's important.
Sure.
Now, I kind of want to transition over to our hack of the week. Typically, during the second half of our cyber briefing, we talk about one of the big breaches that's been in the news. It doesn't have to be big because, the big ones make the news, but we all know that you're not too small to be hacked. You're just too small to make the news sometimes. But anyway, so this week it is a big one, and it's the AT&T breach. And it happened a couple of weeks ago. It actually happened back in April. We're just hearing about it now, but it's a developing story. Apparently, from what I read, exposed some phone calls and some text messages for roughly 110 million people, which was nearly all AT&T customers, which blows my mind. And I think one of the things that was interesting to me was that the records were exposed from a cloud-based provider. This one was called Snowflake. It was only protected by a username and password with no MFA, no multi-factor authentication. There's so much to unpack here, but Keith, what were your initial thoughts after learning about this breach? What did you think?
Well, this was a big one. There's a lot to understand here. There's a lot of pieces to the puzzle per se. There's the lack of MFA, the lack of possible monitoring, the loss of data, not properly vetting the security of your vendors. The end result, millions of people were affected, and it's costing these organizations a lot of time and money to recover from this incident. The reputational damage alone is going to haunt them for years to come. I was reading that Snowflake shares went down 5% initially, and I believe AT&T was also down about 4%. So, one of the things a lot of people don't think about is the actual reputational damage that happens from these breaches. It really deters people from wanting to give them their personal information and do business with them.
It does. So, to your point, let's talk about that lack of MFA. I can't even really believe that we're talking about anyone, let alone a company as big as AT&T, not using MFA. It does blow my mind that major companies like this just believe that it's somehow okay to store so much sensitive customer data without adequate protection.
Yeah, I know, Mel. I'm amazed also. I can't believe that MFA was not in place. This is a basic security control that's easily enforced and quite honestly necessary in today's digital world, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you have an account online, and I mean any account, from your Target or Walmart account to your online banking platform, they all need two-factor authentication. It's just the world we live in now, unfortunately, but that's the reality of it. I think this attack attributed to a lack of possibly expertise internally, a lack of standard operating procedures for onboarding employees, possibly a lack of proper enforcement of security protocols. This is a perfect example of the need for standard operating procedures, for policy enforcement, and for a team of experts to monitor and ensure that these protections are being properly enforced and doing what they're supposed to do to protect you.
Yeah, I agree with you. One of the other things I find interesting is that the criminals got in through a third-party cloud platform, and that's because probably one of the most common myths or objections that I hear from businesses when I'm talking to them about cybersecurity is that I'm safe in the cloud, and it just kind of goes to show what a false sense of security that is. I know because I read IBM's cost of a data breach report last year, so I know that 82%. That's what they were able to identify. 82% of attacks happen in the cloud. And even just last week, we were talking about another big hack, the CDK Global cyber attack, where criminals gained access to 15,000 auto dealerships through one cloud provider. So can you help us understand what the cloud is and why it doesn't guarantee safety?
Sure. Well, I mean, the cloud is obviously having your services hosted on another server that resides somewhere else, possibly from a third party vendor. They spin up the hardware, they spin up all the stuff in the background that you can access online, so you don't have to maintain it in house, right?
Right.
So that's where cloud platforms can be great. They offer a lot of benefits, and because of that, everyone is moving that direction. However, it does not necessarily guarantee that safety and security, right? Organizations still need to implement their own security controls. They need to understand their responsibilities on how to secure these things. They need to stay alert to potential threats to secure their cloud environments effectively at the end of the day. Businesses, they really need to adopt a multi-layered approach to security. And some of these things that we've already talked about are multi-factor authentication, encryption of data, continuous monitoring and alerting, and of course, performing regular security audits. All these items are critical in today's digital landscape for sure. This attack really demonstrates how much damage third-party breaches can do to your business. I mean, think about this. When you entrust your business and your customers' information with a third-party vendor, I mean, you're inevitably associating their brand with yours, right? So when their reputation is damaged, guess what? So is yours.
Yeah.
And that's a perfect example with AT&T. I mean, this really wasn't their mistake. It was Snowflake at the end of the day, right?
Right.
So with that being said, it's really essential to vet your vendor's cybersecurity posture. Ask them for their security policies and procedures. Ask them how they're protecting and backing up your data. Ask them if they're performing regular audits and risk assessments. And at the end of the day, if they can't provide this information to you, they may not be a vendor that you want to trust with your business.
That's a really good point. We should be just as concerned with our vendors and our suppliers' security as we are with our own, because when they're hit, we still suffer. And we just don't hear a whole lot about fines or penalties. I mean, other than, of course, there surely will be class action lawsuits that follow. But, with just such minor slaps on the wrists, I feel like companies have little incentive to protect our data. And, other countries like the UK, I know they have heavy fines. And I just feel like until we start holding companies responsible for securing the data they store, that these types of breaches are only going to continue, which then we all start to get a little desensitized to it. And I don't know if that's called cyber fatigue, but we just hear about them every single day, and it's like, okay, what's the latest attack? But okay, so let's talk about the data though. You mentioned briefly, but what type of information was leaked in this breach?
Well, according to all the stuff we're reading online, AT&T is reporting that the breach didn't contain any personal information or the content of the calls and messages.
Okay.
That's what they're reporting. If that's true or not, we don't know, but that's what we're being told.
Yeah.
So although the data that was stolen didn't contain that personal information, the content of the calls, it still leaves a breadcrumb trail per se to gather insights about people's private communications. And one of the reasons actually that this breach wasn't disclosed earlier is because experts were really truly concerned about the risks of national security risks that it posed on such a large scale theft of telecommunications data. These call records could be used to reveal communication patterns, which could be leveraged by foreign intelligence agencies to compromise U.S. national security. So
yeah, because it's like who called who and how often did they call, and so like you said, it can be linked.
Yep.
Which is I heard it quoted as being a matter of national security, which
absolutely, and that's what it boils down to right there. Yeah.
Yeah. So just this year, for example, talking about cyber fatigue. I mean, I'm in the industry, so it's my job to hear about this stuff and know about it. But personally, my mortgage company, my internet provider, my phone company, they were all hacked recently. So my stuff is out there, my data's out there. So I immediately froze my credit. I didn't want anybody to be able to take any of my personal information and then open up additional accounts. I didn't want to have to worry about that. But what else? Let's give people some practical tips. What else can people do if they've been part of this AT&T breach? Because we know 110 million people are about to get notifications that their information is out there. So what can they do to protect themselves in general when something like this happens?
Well, to your point, I received my notification from AT&T yesterday.
Oh, you did?
Yep. So I was part of that. So what did I do?
Yeah.
Well, first thing I did was make sure you have MFA enabled, right? Which I did already. But that's first and foremost with any online account. We've covered that a couple times on this call today.
Yeah.
I mean, and the next thing is going to be immediately changing your passwords after you realize you've been involved in a data breach, and you did not necessarily wait until you get a notification, because a lot of times it takes a long time for them to actually report out to the affected users.
Right.
So you hear about it on the news, you had an AT&T account, go change your password, right? Don't wait for them to contact you.
Yeah.
And then, of course, as always, think twice before clicking on any links that you receive via text or email. I mean, in this particular breach, we're going to be especially concerned about spamming your phones with text messages because all the phone records were. So just remember, your information is out there and it's being sold on the dark web to the cyber criminals, and they use any method possible to attempt to steal from you. So just be very aware of that going on, especially if you were part of this breach. And even if you weren't, it's just good cyber awareness, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
Just being, but some of these links can be really tricky, man. They can really suck you in. So you got to be super careful. So
they can't. Well, I think it was after my mortgage company, I started getting a ton of text message, which is SMS texting. So it's called smishing. Mm-hmm. So I did personally get a ton of text and email, like phishing campaigns, phishing attacks. And so I always tell, like, my little catchphrase, I don't know who I heard say this, so I don't know who to give credit for it, but I always try to be politely paranoid. I look at something and I'm like, number one, was I expecting it? No. Number two, never click on it. Number three, pick up the phone and independently call that company and verify, did you send me something? What is this application you're talking about? I didn't start any type of application. I shouldn't have to click on anything. There's nothing for me to update. And so, to your point, I did start receiving a ton more just spam and phishing attempts. I know that's what it was, but
yeah, I've been seeing it as well. I really have. So, yeah, I mean, and that's another very good point, Mel. Like we, with our clients that we work with today, we have pretty advanced spam and phishing controls on their accounts, and it'll send them something to their mailbox saying, "Hey, we got this message, but it was spam. It's been quarantined. Mm-hmm. Click here to release it if you think it's good." So they'll send it to us like, "Yeah, I know John Smith." I'm like, "Okay, well, just because you know John Smith doesn't mean hasn't been hacked, right?" Mm-hmm. So people think just because they know someone, it's legit, right? So that's where we have to go in and kind of analyze the message and realize that, hey, no, this was John Smith may have been hacked. It's not legit. So we'll respond back to the user saying, "No, sorry, this is not legit. Don't open it up." So we see a lot of that as well.
And I would say anything that has a sense of urgency to it, take a step back, gather your emotions, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, does this make sense? Is there an application that if I don't finish filling it out by the end of the day, I'm going to lose whatever? Or because urgency and emotion is a tactic that criminals use to get you to click on those links.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, this has just been such an enlightening conversation. Thank you, Keith, for joining me this week as our special guest.
Thank you for having me. It's been great. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I hope everyone has found value in what we've discussed. If you have, the rules. Please engage by liking, commenting, and sharing. It just helps more people see the content we create, which ultimately means more businesses and the people behind those businesses are safe. And just lastly, I would encourage you not to wait for a breach to occur. If you have questions about web gateway security or need help getting a cybersecurity solution in place, reach out and schedule a strategy session with Keith or myself today. I know both of us offer complimentary cyber strategy sessions just to get you pointed in the right direction and a plan of action for what your next steps might be. So, gosh, until next time, I guess we will catch you guys on the safe side. Thanks for joining.
Thanks again.
All right. Thanks, Keith.
Bye-bye.
Bye.